I switched over Twitter accounts. Idiot.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 180 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you again on Wednesday night, Valentine's Day, 7:03 p.m., Wednesday, February 14th. Um, First post NFL season episode. That's not gonna stop the football talk though. Plenty to talk about for the next few months. I mean, by a few, I mean more than a few, because quite a long time in between now and opening weekend. So all that, Bruins, a little bit of Celtics and NBA, some NHL notes as well. But before we get into it, Ryan, how are you? Following the
Doing
Super
well.
Bowl.
Like you said, happy Valentine's Day to all those out there that celebrate it. And maybe for those single folk that decided to tune into the show instead of celebrating Valentine's Day, we appreciate you. So thank you for that. But yeah, like you said, football, basketball, hockey, of course, the football is not going to be all that fun to talk about with another Super Bowl going down. Not the way we had hoped it would. Kind of interesting. My main takeaway, we'll get into in a second. I think it was you that brought it up last week, talking about this as a legacy builder. If one Kyle Shanahan would win it, and I kind of deferred to it would be a legacy maybe killer, or it'd be a stain in his quote unquote legacy if he were to lose again in a stupid fashion. That's exactly what happened. So that is my main takeaway from the Super Bowl. If we'll just dive right into it, is that Kyle Shanahan is a loser. He is not
Mhm.
up for the big moment. Now, I think, what is it? 3 trips to the Super Bowl, 3 10+ point leads, 3 losses. I think a guy at work said 4 if you count whatever NFC Championship game he was in, where he blew a 10-point lead. Again, can't remember what that was. So if you know, or somebody in the comments knows, please refresh me, or refresh my memory. But yeah, I mean, this guy just does not get it. We watching the game, we kind of talked about it leading up to it. Like, you have this year going in, it's different. The best running back in football. You would hope he would use him if they were able to get up. They did not. I have a stat that we'll get to into a little bit. But like I said, that is my main takeaway from this: is Kyle Shanahan. Everyone talks about how smart of a head coach he is, how great of a head coach he is, and yeah, that might be the case for the regular season. But in the postseason, in the biggest moment, he is nothing but a schmuck, and it's been proven time and time again. He was once again coached circles around in this game, and today is now blaming his defensive coordinator. I don't know if you saw that the 49ers parted ways. Is it? I know Wilkes is
Steve
his last
Wilkes.
name. Yeah, Steve Wilkes. Thank you. Kind of crazy because the 49ers defense is what kept them in this game for the most part. It dominated the first half. Kind of fell off as it got, tired, and it ran its course, which you kind of could see coming with how things were going in that game. But their defense was great. And it's very surprising that Wilkes is the one that takes the fall in this when, again, it to me, it was on Shanahan.
Yeah, it's weird for Wilkes to take this big of a fall, but
I don't know how you can justify it. Like, what
yeah,
what the reasoning is.
I wondered if I could justify it, but I can't.
Mhm.
At least for Shanahan's sake, he's consistent in his blunders
That's
and
true.
how they go down. There's some overlapping tendencies and similarities, if you
Mhm.
will. Um, Going into OT, not knowing the rules fully is
That's
just
another thing
like,
too. I,
come
yeah, I
on.
didn't even touch on that. That came out obviously
Also, I
afterwards.
wanted to mention too, they lost Clint Kubiak. I believe to the Saints. He was like their pass game coordinator, QB's coach.
Mhm.
The Patriots were in on him. A lot of teams were in on him. Like, obviously, the little error message here distracted me. Anyone from that coaching tree is good to have. Even given the playoff results not being the best, but the Saints get him, I believe it was. So, one of my takeaways was the fact Joe Murray brought this up, and it was a good reminder to me how the Chiefs didn't really start off all that hot, besides the fumble recovery um, on the first drive. they went like punt, punt, Oh wait, I actually linked the game log. I gotta
Hmm.
find it now. I'll find it. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, Joe Murray from the Sports Hub made a great point. I saw a couple on Twitter. You have the fumble, and then the Chiefs. Let's run down the next 9 drives for them: punt, punt, fumble, punt, field goal, interception, punt, field goal, punt, and then eventually a touchdown. To make it 13-10 on that touchdown.
Hmm.
They gave you opportunities to capitalize. The 49ers could have done more. They didn't. You know, when it comes down to a score like this, those things really stand out as glaring
Hmm.
issues. So, especially when you're a team like the 49ers, for years now, probably like the last 2 or 3 in particular, been lauded as this prolific offense. Uh, Very deep. Yeah, McCaffrey, like you said, maybe it's a different story. George Kittle, 2 catches for 4 yards. I think
Literally
Ayuk had like
non-existent. Yeah.
3 for 43 or 49.
Hmm.
Debo didn't have a great day. Like probably I think 30, just around 30. Not great. Like this was. I'm not gonna say I expected this exact like scenario, but I always had like a thought, especially if they played the Ravens. Like, are they just gonna go off? Are they gonna show up in the big game? It always felt like they could kind of falter. And I
Hmm.
don't really have like super specific reason why. It was just vibes around the team. Like the Ravens to me, obviously, they didn't get as far because they had to go through the Chiefs first, but um felt like the much more likely Super Bowl champion even in that matchup. And the 49ers just can't get it done. They can't.
Hmm.
It's really undeniable at this point.
Yeah, well, you mentioned all the miscues that the Chiefs had too. I mean, I think Nance maybe said it on the broadcast. Romo, one of the two. Everyone kind of shared the same thought process. I mean, the thing that's maddening about this game is the 49ers had the Chiefs as rattled as we has maybe ever seen them in this. Now, I think it's safe to say you can call it a dynasty now because they've won, as many as they have. They're getting up there and wins, of course. But I mean, how many times do you see the Chiefs on both sides of the ball have to have team meetings on the sidelines? Travis Kelce, the a-hole that he is, runs over Andy Reid in just the most ridiculous way possible. That was kind of insane to watch. So they had him rattled right out of the gate, it seemed like. And like you said, they just couldn't capitalize. Some of the other mistakes, too, that the 49ers have on their side of the ball that were kind of the big talking points as well. And again, this goes back into Kyle Shanahan. Again, I just think hates running the football in the second half of Super Bowls. You have the rare isn't even the word to describe it when it comes to Mahomes in these big games. The rare interception, um, they have a 3-and-out, the 49ers right after that on 3 passes. Next Chiefs drive, they go 3-and-out. Then you have another 3-and-out from the 49ers on 3 passes. Again, don't even try to run the ball. Moody's block point after attempt would have, of course, made the game 17-13. So the Chiefs on that final drive would have had to score a touchdown instead of a field goal to send it into overtime. You have the huge muff punt, which wasn't talked about a whole lot, I don't think. That leads to the Marcus Valdes-Scantling touchdown to give the Chiefs the lead at the time. So again, everyone's been talking about it because I think rightfully now you can't. We obviously talked about it leading up to it, how much we just couldn't stand the Patriots comparisons, the Brady comparisons, stuff like that. But as the game went on, you kind, at least for me, I kind of changed my thought process on it because it's the same thing. How many times following the Patriots growing up did we see, these teams make stupid, uncharacteristic mistakes and the Patriots pounced all over them? Same thing happened in this game. And as it went on, you kind of had that feeling like, all right, you're giving the Chiefs too many opportunities here. Giving Mahomes too many opportunities. They're gonna capitalize on one of these mistakes, and they ended up doing so. On the CMC, the Christian McCaffrey stuff too. And again, going back to Shanahan just being a complete idiot, because again, that's the point that I really want to hammer home in this. I went back and looked it up because obviously we knew he didn't run the ball a whole lot in the second half. But I found it glaring, not counting overtime, of course, in the second half. They ran the ball 7 times. Absolutely insane when you're up up 10 or whatever it was. Their first run comes at 5:01 left in the third, up 10-6. Second run for McCaffrey comes with 2:23 left in the third, now down 13-10. Runs 3, 4, and 5 came at the start of the fourth quarter, down 13-10. In his 6th and 7th runs of the second half came with 4:11 and 3:27 left in the fourth when the game was tied at 16-16. That in itself is crazy. To run the ball 7 times, but the fact that you ran it one single time when you were up in the game, I get obviously later on in the game you're changing it up a little bit, keeping the Chiefs on their toes a little bit here. but even the first run, like I was watching the game with my dad, and we kind of could see it coming. As soon as they try to make that run and get stuffed at the line of scrimmage, and we both had the same thought process of like, okay, you could see that coming because you come out and throw the ball 6 straight times. The Chiefs are gonna be sitting on a run play at some point. So again, that even the play calling there was stupid. It's just it blows my mind. The other thing that's caught a lot of attention, and I want to get your thoughts on it, I'm sure you at some point we're probably going to get to because you alluded to it. The players not knowing the overtime rules. I saw a video today of Nick Bosa. I think it was Nick Bosa basically saying that like, oh, we scored a touchdown. I thought the game was going to be over. I didn't know they had a chance to answer. Shanahan has caught some flack for not deferring the ball. Obviously, it was talked about during the broadcast. I think it was Nance that brought it up that said it's interesting. Maybe in this spot you defer it. You see what the Chiefs do, and then you kind of can answer off of that and see what you're going to have to answer with, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. Depending on what your defense does. What were your thoughts on Shanahan taking the ball? You kind of for that, against it. And then again, you had players afterwards, like you said, Eric Armstead said he didn't really know the terms on the rules, and Juszczyk, excuse me, said I assume you just want the ball and score a touchdown and win. I guess it's not the case. So your thoughts on Shanahan taking the ball and just that whole situation?
You just
If you
have to
had any.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just have to. I guess it just works so perfectly with how they bundle it because they do
Mm-hmm.
it every year with some minor nuances when they're in this position. Or even in the NFC Championship last year, they didn't get
Yep.
the job done. Um, like it just doesn't make sense. Like
Nope.
it's a complete lack of awareness, lack of structure, I guess, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Mahomes knew it. Like Mahomes was talking on the sidelines, like they want the ball. Like he's like
Yep.
essentially like without like saying he's like yes, like let's
Well, they were
go.
all
Like
celebrating. That's what I was
um
gonna say when you were done
yeah,
making your point. Is that video that you referenced? I think Kelsey was the same thing. Like he was like the Chiefs on the sideline were pumped they didn't get the ball first. Like usually,
it
obviously, with the
was
old time rules, you kind of knew that first team that gets the ball is probably gonna win the game. But in this case, they're like, yeah, we're not getting. We're gonna go out there. Our defense is gonna make a stop, and all we're gonna have to do is score. At that point, it would be a field goal if
yeah.
the 49ers didn't answer. But I was not really surprised, or maybe surprised, I guess, that they were as excited as they were. And again, it goes back to Andy Reid, Spagnuolo, that whole coaching staff. Again, coaching circles around the 49ers and knowing the situation, like you said, mind blowing that in that spot. You have that big of a gaff. And like you said, it just continues to happen when it comes to Shanahan.
Yeah, that goes back to the whole Patriots thing too, with like them making mistakes
Yep.
in the other teams making mistakes rather, and the Chiefs capitalizing. Another moment too was when Dre Greenlaw unfortunately ran on the field and tore his Achilles.
Yeah, that
Horrible
was, yep.
video.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mahomes is on the other side of the sidelines. He's like 57's out, 57's out. He's like, it's kind of like Brady. Like Brady would see something like that, but like, look who's out, look who's out. We got to target that area of the field when I
And
threw the
they did.
ball.
Yep.
And the McCaffrey thing too. Like, back to that because that's what I wanted to start with last time. I started speaking, but I totally
Mm-hmm.
lost my train of thought. So I pivoted to something else. So I'm glad I remembered it.
Okay, it happens.
When McCaffrey was running the ball, like he found a hole immediately
He was
almost
getting
every
five or
time,
six a
five
chunk,
or
it
six,
seemed like. Yeah.
5 to 8 yards at least a carry,
Yep.
and they don't do that in the second half. I get it. You want to get the ball downfield. Any team in that situation is going to lean more towards throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where the clock's at, timeouts and all that, of course. But it's so bizarre because it's not only it's not a normal running back situation. It's Christian McCaffrey. Like you don't see running backs like Christian McCaffrey, you know, like this super often anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like give him the ball all the time. I don't care if it's repetitive. He's gonna make something happen, like 9 times out of 10.
Well, even if you didn't
Go
want to
ahead, go
run the
ahead.
ball, like getting the ball on some screens, little dump
Middle
passes over the
routes.
middle, like you didn't have to bomb the ball downfield. Not that they were like trying to throw it 20, 30 yards a time, but you know what I mean? Like the fact that they went away from him completely was just absolutely astonishing. Because again,
And
like
I
you
think
said, it wasn't like it was a couple years ago when they were in it. And Raheem Mostert, as we talked about last week, good running back. But like you said, completely different circumstance. You get the best running back in
mhm,
football this time around. You should just be feeding him constantly. They did it in overtime, so I guess we'll give him the benefit of the doubt there a little bit. Maybe
yeah,
Shanahan learned
not
from his
maybe.
mistakes. But
Not maybe.
exactly at that point, it's too little
Yeah.
too late. Like you shouldn't even be in that spot. You should have been
Yeah,
able
and
to hold
like
this 10-point lead.
an interesting discussion point that we brought back last week to pivot a little bit, like we saw the Chiefs get advantage of the whole McDuffie and Snead versus all the receivers thing
Yep.
because McDuffie was on Debo a lot,
He was
and
excellent in this game too.
Snead was Snead again. Just another reason to hate that trade down.
Yep.
It was easy to see from the start, and it's aging poorly. Easy to be worried about. I don't care how good the guard is, especially if you reach on him in this case,
He's
which
not
kind of
that good.
contradicts things. This guard could have the potential to be an all-pro. It's a guard. Just a little tangent there. Kind of a tangent. It does come down to coaching in a matchup like this, and it's gonna every single time the Chiefs
Yep.
are in the Super Bowl. You should never pick against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl until
Mhm.
they lose another one, if it happens. Because at this rate, like, I don't know how you can pick against the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl next year, depending on what happens. Like, unless like Kelsey, like we talked about, Kelsey could retire, Reed could retire. I don't care. Like the Chiefs had a much different look, especially ever since they traded Tyreek Hill on
Mhm.
offense. They became a defensive team. Steve Spagnuolo is fantastic. Got a contract extension as a reward. Um,
But that's the thing.
they know how to do it, and they've proven now with this like heavier. They're not as explosive offensively, so their defense steps up.
Mhm.
Um, they've had a different approach this year, and they've been missing like a number two stud receiver. Like Rashee Rice came in and was pretty damn good.
Yep.
Not like a bona fide number one yet, but another good year. Like he's a bona fide number one. Like he's on the fringe. He's very good. And like you don't necessarily need a number one. I guess they proved when you have Travis Kelsey,
Mhm.
and a great running back. On the other side of things in the backfield of the offense. Um, I don't know how anybody can pick against the Chiefs next year. It's all Chiefs until they lose. I'm gonna pick
Mhm.
the Chiefs every year in the Super Bowl, barring catastrophic um, roster changes or reasons to believe otherwise. Another team could do it. I'm just not gonna do it
Mhm.
because they
You're
have the
losing money at
blueprint.
that point.
They have the blueprint. They do. They have the structure. They have the experience. Tons of experience. Even losing. They've experienced losing.
Yep.
They've been on both sides. You
Well, that's
shouldn't
the
pick against the Chiefs because
that's the
this
thing
is very
too.
real what they
You,
have. Very, very real.
absolutely. It's again,
And the
it's the new
49ers were the
dynasty.
team to do it. I don't care if Shanahan is there. The 49ers were the team to do it.
Yeah, I mean
But
they had
Shanahan
everything.
is the X factor.
Yep. Well, that was what I was going to ask you too, and I was going to ask you in a second because I was going to also kind of piggyback off of your point that I've heard seen some people say that like the thing that should scare you about the Chiefs moving forward is this was supposed to be their down year. Like this is the
Mm-hmm.
year they showed the most cracks. Mahomes
Did you
at
see, was
times
that
wasn't.
real? The Brady Mahomes, Patrick Mahomes text, like, I guess I'll win the Super Bowl this year or
I
something?
didn't even see
In like
that. So
January. It might have been Photoshop. I'll check her Instagram right now while you're talking. But if that's real, like he said in like I think it was January 28th, like I guess he's like decided to win the Super Bowl. And
that's crazy.
she
It was
posted
true.
that.
But yeah, that was the thing because you said they didn't really have a number one receiver. You saw obviously Rashee Rice come on towards the end of the season, and again, another year of him, he gets better down the line. Kelsey, if he's coming back, you talked about, or we talked about it last week, and there was maybe some belief Andy Reid could retire. Now there's reports out that an extension's probably going to be in the works, more so than him retiring. Um, Kelsey, maybe this is the thing for the Chiefs. They kind of hold him off a little bit in the regular season because we know it wasn't the superstar level regular season that we've come to know for Travis Kelsey, but he was damn automatic in the playoffs. So the Chiefs are, like you said, they're only going to get better. They're still
Mhm.
here, and until somebody knocks them off and proves otherwise, as much as we talk about hating on the Chiefs and everything, this was the game for me. Like after the Super Bowl, like I was you get mad watching it because of all the stuff we talked about going wrong. But in the end, like I'm sitting there on the couch. We obviously been watching the post game stuff, but it's like it's the same thing like I said with the Patriots. You can't count them out ever. You can't count out Mahomes. You can't hate on Mahomes at this point because of how great he is. You can hate the antics
No.
of the Kelsey stuff. Like I'm sure we're not gonna spend a whole lot of time on it. The Viva Las Vegas crap was super
Oh
annoying.
my
So
God.
he
It was the
pisses you
perfect
off.
it was the
Um,
perfect Travis Kelsey thing for
it
him to
really
do because
was.
he always does something like this in a situation like this. And even
Mhm.
Taylor, you could tell was like
All right, enough.
gave him
Yeah.
like the side eye, like, all
Yep.
right, dude, relax.
But yeah, the thing is
Hold
like
on, just real quick.
go ahead.
The text. Friday, January 5th at 1:20 p.m. I decided we are going to win the Super Bowl. Sunday, January 28th, 6:14 p.m. I'll see y'all in Vegas. I'm not done.
And that is confirmed to be real. It's not a Photoshop
Yes,
that
it's
you
from
know of or
Brittany
anything.
Mahomes' Instagram.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Her latest post.
She's a
Yeah,
reason to
he's
not like the
Brady.
Chiefs. But other than that, like
I'm not saying Brady did that to his family, like text his family like that, but like that is something Brady would do. That was something he would tell himself, and he would do it. It's
Yeah.
different when you tell yourself or you put it out there and you fuck up.
Mhm.
He's Brady. He's Brady. And he's not fully Brady in terms of being better than him. Just a reminder
Mhm.
until he wins 7.
Yep.
But
He knows that. He was
plenty of
asked about it
stats.
again after the
Plenty
game,
of
and I think he
stats.
basically said that.
He's got 2 MVPs. He's got 3 Super Bowls and like some All Pros. Someone put the breakout. I think I forget what the third stat was. I think it was All Pros. In some respects, statistics wise, and the way he plays, he is better than Tom Brady.
Oh
But he's
yeah, there's
not
no
there
doubt
yet.
about that.
Legacy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, like if you needed proof that he's number 2, he just gave it to you officially.
The
Like
thing that's
there's
so
no argument for anyone besides Patrick Mahomes is number 2. He has
no,
more
it's
playoff wins than Peyton Manning already. For
yep.
anybody who loves Peyton Manning.
Well, we talked about it maybe either last week or 2 weeks ago. He, in both of our opinions, had blown by Manning at this even before the
Oh
Super
yeah, but
Bowl
like
win. But
just to put that out there because I
mhm.
I saw someone
But
put that
that's
out
the
there as
thing
kind of
too
like a
that
reminder stat, like, hey, look how
yeah,
crazy he is.
absolutely.
Like it took Peyton till what? Peyton played till he was like 39 or 40,
I
and
think yeah,
Mahomes
right
has done
around
this at 28.
there. Hmm.
Mahomes has a resume at 28 that is almost unmatched. Like
Yeah,
Mike Trout
absolutely.
early in his career, you could say had a better resume minus championships.
Hmm.
I had discussion about that with a friend. You know him, Pat Snow, who's a big Mike Trout guy.
Big Mike Trout guy.
Big
Yep.
Mike Trout guy. Fair, but like
He would vote for Mike Trout for the MVP every year if he could.
you're not getting many better legacies at this age. Like McDavid's up there. Matthews is on pace he's on a better pace right now to beat Ovi's goal record. Like he's at more goals at this stage in his career than Ovi did. Like it's really hard to find legacies like that. Like Crosby, I'm not going to run through everybody just to
Hmm.
throw another name out. Um, he's he's unstoppable until somebody actually stops him.
Yeah, and
That's
that
it.
the other
I
point
don't
I
I
was
don't
gonna.
know how you can say otherwise, especially with what Lamar proved.
Hmm.
The Cowboys are going to be there probably every year for a while, but they're the Cowboys. Anyone else who could arise, like I'm not counting on Joe Burrow coming back and beating Patrick Mahomes. I'm not counting on Josh Allen beating
See,
Patrick Mahomes as long as they have Sean McDermott.
I was gonna say Burrow's your one chance because he's shown you can do it
Maybe.
before. Like
Yeah, that's the
Allen
thing,
and as
but
long as Allen stays in Buffalo, he's got no shot of beating the Chiefs.
no, I
Like
disagree. If they get Belichick, that's my one thing. If they get Belichick,
mm,
if McDermott doesn't last, if
I'll
they
have to
decide to
see
fire
it
him
to
in the
believe it. That
offseason,
franchise is cursed.
if they fire him in the season, no, I think if they got Belichick, they could beat Mahomes.
Okay.
Will they? Probably not. But I think
Well,
Belichick would give them a chance.
it's an interesting thing because I can't remember who was talking about it. It might have been Zolak and Birch or Felber Mazzy the day, whoever it was, but they brought up an interesting point because they too were dumping on Shanahan like everybody has, but then again, rightfully so. And they asked that question. If the 49ers had this team with Bill Belichick, do they beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl? I think they might.
Yeah,
Bill's smart.
I think
Bill's lost his fastball a little bit, but he's smart enough to know that I get the best running back in football. And a 10-point
um,
lead, I'm going to run the ball and just continue to hammer that. The other point I wanted to ask you, because again, it happens. We've talked about it before. When the 49ers lose, it seems like some people want to blame Brock Purdy. There's been some people that have been dumping on his performance, saying they have all this talent around him. The guy can't close out a football game. Well, when you're a game manager and you're asked to throw the ball maybe a little bit more than you should, to me he's a better version of Garoppolo a couple years ago. I'm not going to compare him to Jimmy G too much, but again, it comes down to Shanahan for me. It comes down to the same situation you were in, whatever that Super Bowl was 3 or 4 years ago. Don't have the ball in your quarterback's hands and having him throw the ball as much as you are in the second half. Run the ball,
mhm.
kill the clock. Like, yeah, Purdy wasn't. He missed a couple of throws here because that was what some people said. Like, oh, he missed Debo in the end zone, like Garoppolo missed his touchdown a couple of years ago. So there was some similarities there. But Purdy wasn't bad in this game. He made some pretty damn good throws at times. Again, they had plenty of opportunities. They just couldn't come through. So did you have any thoughts on Purdy's play at all, or that you kind of were shaking your head? So I feel like you kind of echo
Yeah,
the same thought process that it really wasn't his. It
yeah,
wasn't great, but wasn't all his fault either.
yeah. And the Debo miss is tough, but you have to. I'm not like making excuses here, but it is his first time. Like I
Mhm.
think he did pretty solid for his first time in the Super Bowl.
Tying it up in overtime with Patrick Mahomes.
Mr.
Like,
Irrelevant. Like
mhm.
you can give a lot of credit to McCaffrey, whatever, anyone else, but um the thing with Purdy is like it's going to be hard for him to beat a guy like Mahomes or anybody who is hot enough going into the playoffs and can play well enough because he's a good quarterback, but he's a game manager and he doesn't have that wow factor
Yeah,
yet. Yeah, maybe he will. Like he can make good plays, but he's not a wow
there.
quarterback
Yeah, there's
yet.
flashes for
Patrick
sure.
Mahomes is a wow quarterback, no
Mhm.
doubt. Um, he's not doing it constantly, but in these games when it counts, he can and he probably will. So that's the difference. It's Patrick Mahomes and everyone else. He's put
You
himself
really
on a
can't argue it. Yeah.
pedestal much higher than even the second best quarterback in the league with
Hmm.
his playoff success, his ice in his veins in the playoffs, his coachability, and his straight up success and execution is unmatched. It's not close.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And like I said, the fact that I've come around on that's kind of crazy because again, this is a guy that
Mm-hmm. You
didn't
have
want.
to at this
Hey,
point, or else you're a
that's the.
jackass.
Yep,
Like,
that's the same mindset I had. Like I said, watching the end of that, I'm like, it's Brady all over again. Like you said, there's some skill set where he's better than Brady, but there's a couple of things he's got to obviously get to. But watching those last couple of drives, the overtime drive, the drive to get to the field goal, I'm like, it's just Brady. Like, yeah, let me go out here, throw it a couple times, run it a couple times. We'll get down to the field goal range, no problem, and win the game in the end. Like, he is just as calm, cool, and collective in those moments, and you got to give it to him. Like you said, he is just so high above everybody else right now that until somebody knocks him off, like I don't know, like you said, how you can bet against the Chiefs moving forward. It's the boring pick, but in the
yeah,
end, like we're not
they just
gonna,
got it done.
be caught looking stupid going against them.
No, they got it done. We do want to pass along our best wishes with everything
Hmm.
that happened at the parade today.
Another
Just
awful
crazy that
situation.
yeah, like it's crazy that this has to happen. Crazy that this happens the way it does. Too consistently in America, sending the best to family and friends of those affected because nobody wants to see a situation like that.
Hmm.
Um, the commercials, the commercials.
Any thoughts on the
This
halftime
time,
show before you jump into the
oh,
commercials?
halftime show.
Any thoughts on
I like the
Usher
halftime
and
show.
Alicia?
I
It
liked
was
it.
like
I
it was
liked
good.
Alicia Keys, self bonk. Um,
What'd you think of her
the
coming
halftime
out
show,
playing the guitar? That caught a lot of flack because there's some people
yeah,
that don't seem to think that she was actually playing that guitar. Are you one of those
probably
people?
not.
Yeah, I went
No,
back
I
and looked
didn't
at the
really
video again. I'm like,
have a specific thought.
okay.
Um, I thought it was good. Like it was about what I expected. Like it didn't blow anyone away. I don't think they did anything like super crazy, but I thought it was enjoyable.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was. I feel like it was
That's all I
what
asked
you.
for, man, in the show.
Yeah, just don't bore me. I mean, I saw some people that say maybe it was a little boring, but
It was a
it was
little, I guess.
at times. Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see Ludacris and Little John come out. Kind of a throwback
Yeah,
there.
how can you not love Lil Jon, especially? Nothing against Ludacris,
Absolutely.
but like Lil Jon's
Um,
an icon.
yeah, true,
And he
absolutely.
had the Vegas Golden Knights Stanley Cup ring with him that night, which is
Oh, I
pretty
didn't even
cool.
notice that.
Yeah, he
Um,
did.
but yeah, I mean, it was. I kind of echo the same thoughts you do. It was Usher. It was what you expected with Usher. It was some good moments. Some moments where you're like, all right, like I guess that's kind of cool, but definitely not one of the worst performances or not up there for the best. But yeah, overall, pretty good
Yeah.
show.
I saw people throwing Lil Wayne's name out there since it's going to be in New Orleans next year, which would be awesome.
It would
That would
be.
be
That would
potential to be
explain
one
why
of the
he was the
best.
betting favorite. I saw that on Twitter after the halftime show
He
ended.
could
It
get
was like he
so
is
many
the
features too. Like,
absolutely. Yep.
oh my God. A Lil Wayne halftime show would be like one of those halftime shows where you'd be like giddy excited
Hmm.
about if you're a Lil Wayne fan because he's just such a legend in the world of rap. So um I gotta be honest, like I have such a short memory with commercials, I forget a ton of them
Well, you and I
already.
have some pretty severely differing thoughts on a couple of commercials that
Yeah,
you
we
might be
did
alone on an island with one of them, but
I thought the Hey Arnold commercial was awesome, even though it was like cut down a little bit. I mean,
mhm.
I think that was pretty universally like I'm a sucker for the Doritos commercials. I thought it was funny with the old ladies. I thought them pinning the car was funny. The whole chase scene, some acrobatics, pick up the looking at the baby. It's kind of goofy, like corny, like grandma type stuff. But I always love
I
the
don't get your
Doritos
reason.
commercials
Okay.
in part because of the past.
Hmm.
They're just like they have to really screw it up in my mind for me to not like it. I thought it was
Hmm.
enjoyable. I thought it was fun. Getting Jenna Ortega for that was a pretty big get for them. I imagine she's becoming pretty popular these days. I just enjoy them. They make me laugh. Like they
Hmm.
don't. I'm not like hollering, hooting, laughing.
See,
I
really
missed
quick
the Bud
before.
Light commercials with the Bud Knight.
Hmm.
We
My
didn't. I
my
don't
brother said
have
the
one of
same thing
those.
watching the Super Bowl. It was kind of funny. See, real quick though, and again, we'll dive into it in a second. But what you just said about it being corny and goofy, kind of contradicts another
No, but
commercial that
like
we'll get to that
it's
reason you didn't
corny.
like it.
Like I thought it was corny and goofy in a funny way.
Okay.
Like I thought the one we're gonna talk about wasn't like I was like just like
Mind
okay.
blowing. It's arguably
Um
the best commercial of the night. Then we'll get to it. People that are listening have
no,
probably figured out by now. It's
I
just
didn't
playing
really
on the
like
TV
it.
behind me. So
Um Also, did we get a sad dog commercial? They always do that. Why didn't they do that? Like it kind of tugs at your heartstrings and you hate it, but like it's a dog. Like it's
mhm.
like
You
brings
got the
on
I can never remember the beer that's always with it. It's not Budweiser.
it's
What's it
Budweiser
is Budweiser.
usually.
Yeah. They had it was the quick one. It was, they got a glimpse of a horse and a dog for maybe like five
Yeah.
seconds because my dad kind of said the same thing. Like, where's the old reliables? And that was one of them. But
Okay. And my last point before we get into the big one.
mhm.
Um, I know why they do this is for clicks, but can we stop cutting movie trailers and TV trailers short?
Yep.
Like I hate that. I think
My
it's the
brother
last
said the
3 years
same
they've
thing
done it.
because he's
God
not a big
damn it.
he's not a big sports fan, so he watches mainly for like I want to see, what movie commercials are out there or anything like that. And we obviously knew going in, the Deadpool was gonna be because
Yeah.
it had been leaked, like that was one of the big ones, big movies that were coming out. And I told him, I go, you watch what it's gonna be. All it's gonna be is like a 10
Yeah.
second trailer is online now, and sure as shit, he was not happy.
They
So
want the
he
online
left and
clicks.
went and watched it immediately. But I'm right there with you. Like that's one of my
And
biggest peeves as well.
it's becoming a trend, but I forgot it was a trend until it happened the first time. I was like, God damn it,
Yep.
they're doing this again. And it's gonna
Mhm.
happen every year now until they stop. And I
Yeah.
hate it.
But
Hate it.
the thing too is like that was the one, the Deadpool one was the one I was most looking forward to. There was some decent, like the Planet of the Apes one looked okay. The Twister trailer wasn't, but like those ones were
The
way longer.
Twister. Oh, I kind of remember that one. I think I liked that a lot,
Mhm.
actually.
But I was
The
like, all right,
Twister.
you're playing the majority of these trailers. Like, why couldn't you have played the full Deadpool trailer? Like,
I don't know.
doesn't make a
I
lot of
I gotta be
sense.
honest too. Like I've seen, promotional clips too. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, if this is gonna be the one I get into, but I'm probably
Mhm.
gonna watch it due to the X-Men connection. I
Yep.
don't really know a lot about the X-Men, and I feel like this is a good way to start. Like in terms of just like keeping up with what's going on more so than knowing the backstory. So I'm probably not definitely because I'm not a Ryan Reynolds guy. I don't know if I ever will be. I don't like him. I don't like his voice. Um, Something's off. It doesn't work for me. Um, but I don't know.
You love
Deadpool,
going
they
against the public
need
opinion.
the superhero world needs Deadpool to be really good too,
Hmm.
because it's in a tough state right now. Especially with Madam Web. I saw someone say it's the worst movie actually ever. I think I sent you that review,
You did.
but
I
I
did
don't
see it's
know,
still
like,
higher than Morbius somehow, but I've kind of heard the same things that
yeah,
like
and dude, like, I don't know how anybody thinks it's Reynolds over Gosling for the Battle of the Orions.
it's a tough
It's
choice.
Gosling. It's Gosling all day for me, man. Not even close. Um, the recency bias with the nice guys and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but those just phenomenal. And the Fall Guy looks awesome. I can't wait for the Fall Guy with him and
Hmm.
Emily Blunt. Um,
I was
but
surprised that didn't get a trailer.
to the Dunkin' commercial. Dunkings, is that what
Best
they call
commercial
it?
of the night. Yes, the Dunk Kings.
I did not enjoy the Dunkings commercial as much as others. It was corny by design.
Mm,
I think Ben Affleck has kind of become a
a meme.
Boston meme poster child, and I
Yep.
hate seeing him on my TV. I don't even really hate him. I just like I see him like, oh, it's gonna be
Hmm.
some corny Boston shit. Like I hated the cousin from Boston stuff at first, and then they started getting funnier, like
Hmm.
actual humor wise. So I was like, all right, I can look past this. This guy's actually just like a shithead by design for these
It's
commercials,
funny
and
you
he's
say that
funny.
because it was the same way for me. Like I hated those commercials when they first came out.
Look, I liked the Tom Brady Matt Damon angle, but that was it. Like other than that, like J Lo's like obviously a fan of J Lo, she's a legend. She's very attractive. It's not for me. The Boston humor is just like I don't know. It just doesn't work for
You
me.
feel offended by it, the Boston
The
humor.
no the humor it just didn't reel me in
Hmm.
at all. It's like oh cool Tom Brady, oh cool Matt Damon, a couple funny Matt Damon lines.
Hmm.
Nah, it just didn't do it for me.
Okay.
If you stand for nothing, you fall for anything, Ryan. I'm not gonna be a sheep and change my mind because the
Fair
public
enough.
opinion.
You will die on that hill alone because I think that was maybe the consensus best commercial of the night. Like everyone that blew up social media, I feel like right after it
Oh, I
happened.
know. I'm
I mean,
aware.
the stupid jackets sold out in like 5 minutes. I saw on Twitter. They put it up on
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts' merch's
Duncan needs to do
website.
that with merch every year in the Super Bowl or
It would
just
be
ads.
smart.
Like
I mean,
people, they have like a cult following of people who will buy that merch.
yeah. I mean, I liked it. That was like I think my it was between that one, the Paramount Plus one that you said, but like I told you, I think I texted you when it happened. Like they needed to play that whole commercial. Patrick Stewart singing Creed was arguably the funniest part of that commercial. And they cut that
Yeah,
part, would might have been the best part. The State Farm one with Arnold Schwarzenegger,
that was
not
good.
being able to, say the line was pretty funny. Getting Danny DeVito to, kind of one up him was good as well. I thought the NFL, the Born to Play, the NFL always seems to have really good commercials, really heartwarming ones. So that one was another good one. The BMW Talk Like Walking. I don't know if you remember that one where everyone doing, because everyone I think has a Christopher Walken imitation. Like that one was kind of funny. Especially too leading up to it. Like I feel like most of these commercials were kind of garbage. Like there was only a handful that were pretty good, and that was the one where I was like, oh, that one, okay, we're off to a good move there. And then I like the Uber Eats one. Don't forget Uber Eats with the one with Jennifer Aniston forgetting David Schwimmer. That one was pretty funny. The guy forgetting how to
That
sit
was good.
down. If you remember, like that's a very funny Family Guy joke. So I kind of thought they were going to take that route where he just jumps and takes out the chair like Peter did. For that people remember that cutaway. So that one was pretty funny. It wasn't specifically an NFL like play commercial, but I think it was YouTube TV where you had the flock of like seagulls and eagles, all flying south for the winter. That one was pretty good. I think that was one of like the first ones too. And then Google Pixel took home the feel good one on the commercial with the face recognizer with the blind guy and being able to take selfies and
Mhm.
everything. That one was pretty cool. To see that. Everything else, for the most part, I thought, like I said, was garbage. You mentioned one of my biggest pet peeves, the not playing movie trailers all the way. Like it's 2024. Just play the stupid movie trailer. I don't want to have to, in the middle of the football game or halftime show,
Hey
go and
Ryan, guess
watch
what?
the.
I
Go
watched
ahead.
one of those trailers they did that with, the full thing. One of them. They probably did all four of them. I watched one.
I watched the Deadpool one
Fuck the
after the.
establishment.
Again, going against everything. But yeah, I waited until the end of the game to watch the Deadpool trailer because I'm like, I'm not taking time away from the football game or the other commercials. Um, or the halftime show to watch this. I'll just wait, which stinks because I want to watch it when it comes out. I was not like you. I was not a huge fan of the Doritos one. Thought that one was kind of dumb. Most of the heavy hitters though, Bud Light really wasn't anything great. The Reese's commercial was really stupid. The
Wait,
going
did they
back and
actually did they do the Bud Light night at one point in that one?
no, they did. They brought I think it was the Coors Light, the Coors, the train. That was the nostalgia one from the like a beer commercial that they did. I don't remember seeing the Bud Light.
Oh, I don't
The
either, but
Bud
now
Light
I
one was
just
the one where they got the genie and they I think wished for like Post Malone. They ended up at the Super Bowl. All the people that were in the commercial. But I didn't think that one was that great. MGM I thought wasted Tom Brady and Vince Vaughn. That was could have been a funny combination. I think that one was on social media a lot. So people were talking it up. Didn't think that one was great. Some of the other ones, Drumsticks was stupid alone. I'm not a big Eric Andre fan, so that one was not all that great. Um,
you don't like Eric Andre?
Not really. Like the
Wow.
commercial too
I
was
love
really
Eric
stupid.
Andre.
Do
I'm
you?
not gonna act like
Okay.
I watched the show, but I've seen so many good clips of him.
Okay, fair
And there's some
enough.
good memes out there, you know?
I'm trying to run through just some of the other ones I had. The T-Mobile commercials. I feel like we've talked about this before because they're usually a Super Bowl commercial. I don't even know those two actors' names, but anytime there's a T-Mobile commercial with those two dorks on it, I just turn it off. Can't stand it. Um, some of the other ones like Popeye is wasted. I think is a Ken Young is the actor. Like that one was kind of dumb. The sketches with Tony
Kenny
Romo was
Young?
kind of cringy. Um, Pringles had a chance with Chris Pratt. I don't know if you're a big Pratt guy or not, but that one was kind of lame.
You mean Ken Jong?
Yeah. What did I say? Young.
Uh, You said Young. I was like, who's Ken
Okay.
Young?
Ken Jeong,
Okay.
sorry.
Gotcha.
But yeah, wasted him. Funny actor. Didn't think the
Mhm.
Popeyes commercial was that great. The stupid Timu or Temu, TurboTax, and Pluto
Yeah.
TV, like those were the commercials that got multiple plays. Kind of,
Yeah, Temu the you ever see those TikTok ads for
no.
Temu? The weirdest shit. It'll be like you'll see a video, it'll be like, you can get this pair of shoes for 298, and you can also get this person's leaked nude photos. I'm
What? Whoa, combination! What a combination!
like what's going on in that app?
What's going on with Temu? I don't know.
I don't know.
They're trying to get more eyes on him, though, apparently, with 3 or 4 Super Bowl commercials or whatever it was. That was ridiculous. And then not to get political or religious, but what the fuck did we need a Jesus commercial with the sorry, like that was one of the first commercials we get is just the washing the feet commercial, which everyone it's like, what is going on? And then the one that really throws you for a loop is the Robert F. Kennedy commercial. I don't even know if you remember that one. Like watching that live, I
No,
was
not
like,
really.
yeah, I was like, what? I don't even know if it was like a political ad for anything. I think it was just a commercial just to like spread not awareness, but like, hey, get Robert F. Kennedy's name out there, which I think afterwards came out that his family was pissed about. So those two commercials were just completely whiffs. And then the Bass Pro commercials and Snapchat, just super random. Like, I don't know how many Snapchat and Bass Pro commercials we've had in the Super Bowl before. But that was just my spiel, my soapbox. Some of them were good, some of them were not. I feel like the majority the last couple of years have leaned more towards the not good side. And like we said, the ones that are good, they don't tend to play a whole lot. The Paramount Plus one needed to have the entire commercial. And then, as we've talked about numerous times, just play the whole movie trailer. Like,
Yeah, come
I
on.
feel like it's some of those are like what people like my brother just tune in specifically for that. So to make them go and watch it online is just a complete tease. Put the whole thing in there.
Yeah, very whack.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a really funny tweet about the Jesus commercial that I just tried to find and I couldn't, but it was really, really
Well, one of
funny,
the
and I
ones I
wish I
saw
sent it
was
to
like
you.
Rex Ryan is probably like foaming at the
No, it was
mouth or
like
something like that for.
I don't even think it was about like people like, oh, the foot fetish community went crazy for this one,
Mhm.
like stuff like that, which I just saw a bunch of. I saw some like very niche about it that was really, really funny that I
Mhm.
wish I could find. But yeah, like the days of just banger after banger commercial are long gone.
Really
Um,
is like it was a stretch. The first like
sucks.
10 were horrible. I'm like, what are we doing here? And again, the
Yeah,
fact that
it's tough.
like not to make it sound like keep your religion and your politics out of my football, but like one of the first commercials is a he gets us washing people's feet commercial. Like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, it's like come
Mhm.
on. It's whatever. Chiefs win. They're just gonna dominate for the next few years. I think that's what we're heading towards. Um,
I think so.
shall we switch to Celtics though? Because they made not one but two moves. A
Yeah,
guy
so
that
we haven't seen
feels
either
like
one of them yet.
we haven't. No, dealing with some injuries. Don't seem too major. But this second move kind of feels like a guy nobody thought of that Brad Stevens goes for.
We
He's
talked about it leading.
21.
Yeah, a guy that if you listen to Daryl Morey, excuse me, of the 76ers was quite literally just thrown away by them, which was, I think, one of the crazier stories that came out of this trade for the people that missed it. The guy we were referring to, of course, is Jaden Springer. Like you said, 21-year-old guard. Celtics got him for a 2024 second round pick. So again, gave up practically nothing to get him. As you said, I kind of felt the same way. This is a maybe under the table, under the radar Brad Stevens type of move. He helps you now, he helps you later. Because he's under contract for a cap hit of right around 4 million next year as an RFA in 2025. Solid player, 4 points per game, nothing too crazy. But is more known again like Tillman was. We talked about him last week. I think more so known as a defensive-minded player. And for people that want, some clarification or back that up, there's a video. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter of this preseason versus the Celtics. This Jaden Springer guy just absolutely stuffing Tatum at the rim. Obviously, don't want to see Jason Tatum get blocked on a dunk attempt, but I mean he hammered the ball on the block. So this kid gets it apparently on the defensive end. One of those strong-minded guys that Brad Stevens likes to go after. And like I said, kind of the craziest thing from this trade is that Daryl Morey basically threw him away. This was from I think it's Kai Carlin, Sixers wire for US Today. He's a writer. Said that quote Daryl Morey says he believes that Jaden Springer has a good future. But Philly is trying to win a championship now, and he believes Springer's time to contribute to a title team is not here at the moment. Kind of interesting that a team that you are in direct competition with, a team that is probably looked at as having a better chance to win a title than the Philadelphia 76ers, especially now that Embiid is out for, whatever the time being he's going to be out for with his injury. Kind of crazy that the Celtics said, yeah, we'll take that guy on our roster. We think he can contribute to a winning atmosphere and a winning team and, help us get to a title. So that was kind of interesting to see. And then to make room for him, a guy we kind of figured was going to be on the outside looking in and probably get traded was Delano Banton. He gets moved to the Trailblazers for whatever a heavy protected second round pick. I haven't seen kind of any indication on what that was. But he played well in his first game, I think, with the Blazers the other night, had like 16 points or something. So good to see him get an opportunity. Obviously, was kind of towards the end of the bench for the Celtics, wasn't playing a whole lot like we talked about last week. Um, but to be honest, don't know a whole lot about Springer other than, again, that he is more on the defensive side of the ball. Him and Tillman, probably better players than you had at the end of the bench. And at this point, I'm just looking to see them get into a game because they have not, like I said, played since they got traded here. Probably not going to play until after the All-Star break, with, of course, tonight's game against Brooklyn being the last game before the All-Star break. But it's basically what we asked for. We asked for a couple of depth guys. They end up doing that. And again, Brad Stevens really hasn't made a horrendous trade since he took over as, the president of basketball operations or whatever the title is. So I can't complain about it too much. I feel like you probably share the same mindset.
No, I do.
I thought you were going to say, no, you
I
don't.
misspoke. No,
Yeah.
I misspoke. Let's just leave it at
Okay.
that. I just noticed Delano Banton. I was actually gonna check if he got traded back to the Trailblazers because I thought he came from the Trailblazers, but it was a different team with red in the logo. It's the Raptors.
Toronto. Yep.
He had 16 last night and 12 the night before, so he's getting a
Okay, so he's
better
played two
opportunity
there.
there.
Absolutely.
So, um, but like the funny thing about the whole Daryl Morey angle too is like, what is a 2024 second round pick, whatever you use that on, gonna do to
Right. Good
maximize your
point.
championship window significantly? I just think he wanted to get a pick. I think it's that simple. They weren't using the guy; they wanted to get a pick. So you could have just said that, but I don't know. Maybe
I
he had
wonder.
like a Tom Warner situation where Tom Warner said artful, and maybe he didn't mean that.
Yeah, he misspoke, used the wrong adjective. I
Yeah,
wonder
like
because they did sign Kyle Lowry off the buyout market, so I wonder if trading Springer opened up a roster spot for him, maybe. But again, like, what's Kyle Lowry at this point of his career? Like, I think we could pretty much say good as washed. Like, he's not, at least in my opinion, not a difference maker. He's not going to be a guy that I don't think helps you now that Embiid's hurt. But maybe that's the direction they wanted to go in, sign a 35 plus or whatever he is guard instead of a 21-year-old who's still under contract for a couple of years. Um, all the power to the 76ers, depending on what they want to do. But if you didn't think he was that big of an asset, I don't know why you would trade him to your
yeah, like he's 21
division
years old.
rival,
Like
conference rival, and a team again that you are chasing and have been for quite some time.
yeah, it's super bizarre, but overall, I don't know how you can be mad with the Celtics trade deadline. It's kind of similar to last year, like different players.
Yep.
Who they get Muscala and they get one other
It was
guy last year.
Muscala, and I think there was
Someone
maybe it was
else.
only Muscala.
But like they're at a point right
Same
now
thing.
with their
Yeah.
roster
Yep.
construction. Well, like they don't need these home run moves. Like they need
Mhm.
depth, and they got depth, and they got more intriguing depth than a guy like Muscala. Nothing against him, but
They also didn't use the Grant Williams TPE. I don't believe. I don't know if I don't think um Springer fell into that. He might have. So maybe I'm mistaken, but I could have sworn I saw that the TPE didn't get used. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on. They do also have one, we're not going to talk a whole lot of bio market stuff because they didn't have anything in the outline for it. Um, but do still technically have an open roster spot. There is one name on the buyout market. If he's already on it or if he's still in the process of being bought out, I think he's already been bought out. But Danilo Gallinari is a name to maybe keep an eye on. I don't know if there's any rules about
did
the
Joe
Celtics.
Harris get actually end up
Joe,
getting bought
yes,
out?
Joe Harris too. As I remember, that's right. I sent that to you, or you sent it to me. That was another name that I would keep an eye on. Um, if you need another shooter, another scorer, two guys, the Gallinari one would just be kind of poetic and kind of funny to bring him back
Yeah.
here. As a buyout guy, I don't know how many minutes he's gonna play, or would play with Hauser and Pritchard playing pretty well of late, but wouldn't hate it. Obviously the guy talked about it last year, how much he wanted to come to Boston, win a championship. I don't know if that was a lifelong dream or whatever the quote was that he had, but obviously was psyched to be here, and then obviously couldn't play last year with the injury. But wouldn't hate it if they brought him back just for vibes alone. I think I tweeted out the other day, so maybe a couple guys to keep an eye on.
Perhaps,
Mhm.
perhaps. What else went down, Ryan?
It was a weird trade deadline. There wasn't a whole lot of like big splashy moves compared to last year because obviously we saw Kevin Durant get dealt, I believe, at last year's trade deadline, if I'm remembering correctly. Um, a lot of these I feel like were some nice depth moves for teams, some nice bench pieces here and there, or what's the word I'm looking for? Like role guys. The Suns, they traded for Royce O'Neal. David, I think Roddy is how you say that. Royce O'Neal was the big get in that, a solid wing option for them, maybe to, spell Kevin Durant for a couple nights here and there. The Nets in that deal received Jordan Goodwin, Keto Bates Diop, and 3 second-round picks, 2 from Memphis. And the Grizzlies received Utah Watanabe, young player there, and Chimezi Metu, I believe is how you say that as well. So 2 young players for the Grizzlies who obviously are not in a rebuild, but not really playing for anything this year, so nothing too crazy there. Pacers get a good shooter in Doug McDermott. They traded a 2029 second round pick via the Clippers to the Spurs and Marcus Morris Sr., who was then dealt again, I believe, at the trade deadline. He got traded.
Or maybe was it his brother? Does his brother still play?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because I know, regardless, I know he was bought out and he plans on signing if he hasn't already with Minnesota. So I don't know. Again, don't know if that deal has gone on or gone down yet. One of the more interesting ones, again, related to the 76ers and Daryl Morey. Apparently, he told Patrick Beverley he was not getting traded at the trade deadline. and then was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, straight up for Cameron Payne, the 2027 second round pick. So the Bucks get better, obviously, on the perimeter when it comes to defending, because it's been their biggest struggle this season, obviously, with no Drew Holiday. They can't defend to save their lives, so Beverly will obviously help with that, give them some toughness. Probably the biggest deal of the trade deadline, the Mavericks, they got good two-way forward PJ Washington and an interesting trade with the Hornets for Grant Williams, who I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, is just getting absolutely slandered left and
Yep.
right.
Yep.
There was the report, obviously, that he had soured some people originally. I don't know if it was true or not. Maybe it was because there was numerous reports on it that during a game he switched out of Luka Doncic's signature shoe to Jason Tatum's. That rubbed some people the wrong way. And then today I saw maybe the less of the surprising ones, because obviously we know what he was like when he was with the Celtics, but rubbed people the wrong way for quote unquote yapping too much. And then apparently came into training camp or the season just overweight. So Grant Williams' stay in Dallas obviously was a short one. He's played well since going to the Hornets. Seth Curry also went there, but I think he might be a buyout candidate if he hasn't been already in a 2027 first round pick. I saw you kind of shaking your head on the Grant Williams stuff. That was one of the bigger talking point trades. Do you have any thoughts on him getting dealt, all the stuff that's kind of come out about him? Do you believe it? Where are your thoughts on Grant Williams' situation? It's a weird one.
Well, personally, Ryan, I think that Deuce Tatum was onto something when not liking Grant
That's
Williams.
right. Yep. Not high
Um,
fiving him. Yep.
no, yeah, like Grant's kind of like annoying.
He's
So
got that
that
little
seems to be
like
the
little
vibe.
brother pain in the ass vibes as we've
Yeah, like
seen, with
annoying.
Jalen and
Like
stuff.
I
Yep.
can see that. There was a whole clip going around of him and Kyrie too. Kyrie was giving like the side eye about something. Like
Mm-hmm.
the shoes thing is whack for him to
Yeah.
do. Really whack. Uh
Is it more whack to do it or more whack to like care, like the fact that
no,
grown
I
men
think it's
care
definitely
that
whack to do it.
it is actually
Especially since it's Luca's shoe.
and he's on your team, yeah, or
He's
it
on your
was on your
team,
team, like
dude.
you're on his team in this case, yeah. But it very strange situation, but I don't know, like I don't necessarily like hate Grant Williams. I don't want to slander him or anything, but it is kind of funny where it's like, all right, you did watch him kind of have these moments where on with the Celtics, you're like, dude, just shut up. Obviously, we all remember the I'm gonna make both free throws and then brick both of them. So it does give off those vibes of like the I'm sure you've played, pick up basketball before. You get the like super over aggressive kid you're playing against, and you're like, dude, could you just get the fuck away from me? Like, what is your problem?
Yeah.
Like that to me is Grant Williams in a nutshell. Again, love everything he did for the
Yeah.
Celtics, but
It also makes me think back to that Jalen Brown clip a couple weeks ago when he was talking about like Grant be like, oh,
thinking
he's
the
gonna be
same
annoying.
thing. Yeah, you're happy to see
Um,
Grant do whatever it was. He basically was like,
Ryan,
nope,
I hate to interrupt, but
it's okay.
someone in the Twitch chat just said Momo. I translated it from Spanish.
Mhm.
Momo, you can throw your face in a volcano. So I don't know who Momo is. If we're being called Momo. Um,
Are you sure the translator got that right? That doesn't.
I'll double check.
Okay.
Yeah, it says Spanish to English. Momo, you put your face inside a volcano in the chat. So
Okay. All
I'm
right.
gonna need some clarification there if
What
that's
that
directed
means?
at
Yeah.
us or
If
not.
that person's still on, yeah.
Kind of rude.
hmm
Um,
Unless we're not
don't
Momo, then you gotta.
yeah.
If there's a Momo that's
Apologies if we're not
listening,
Momo. Is there a
yeah.
Momo in the chat that we don't know about that she's trying to start beef with? I don't know.
I don't know.
Um, Very
Other than that,
interesting
like
message.
not a whole lot of crazy trade. Like there was a weird one with the Raptors and Nets that Spencer Dinwiddie got traded to Toronto and then was like immediately waived and signed with the Lakers for Dennis Schroeder and Thaddeus Young, who in turn was waived and signed with Phoenix. So Dennis Schroeder got sent to the Nets for practically nothing, which was kind of a weird trade. I saw some people on Twitter. I can't remember who it was that tweeted it out, but I thought it was a good tweet where it was like the fact that this is a 1-for-1 swap of these two very similar players. They both have to uproot their lives and move in some case, obviously different country in the case of Spencer Dinwiddie for maybe a little bit. Kind of stupid, but in the end, I guess the Nets saw something like Dennis Schroeder. The Knicks, they had a good deadline. They get two very good shooters, and Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks for Evan Fournier, who is I've never seen a guy complain so much in my life. He the other day said he was thrilled to get out of the Knicks, which is weird because the Knicks have been a pretty good team this year. So maybe Evan Fournier just not happy with the situation he's in. Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, and Ryan Arcia
Wait,
Diacono or Conio. What's up?
Archidiakadano, I think it is, or something like that.
All right, there you
His
go.
name is Malachi?
I believe so. Malachi Flynn or
Is it
maybe
Malachi?
Malachi, maybe Malachi. I don't
Malachi?
know. I
That's
say it how it's
really
spelled.
funny because one of my old coworkers would call Malachi Nelson, who's a
Malachi.
five-star quarterback attitude issues, went from USC to Boise State now, and called him Malachi, not knowing it was Malachi, and we goof on him for it.
Oh,
So
so maybe.
you might have just done the same thing,
All
which is
right. Well,
really, really, really
that
funny.
that also shows that I should probably look up the pronunciation of some of these guys' names. It's only right on NBA reference when you look this stuff up. Um, but Mavericks also they got Daniel Gafford, nice piece from the Wizards for Rashawn Holmes and draft compensation. Gafford, a nice, you know, backup option to the center or their center spot if they want to maybe play him in the starting role. Gives them some good depth there. Gordon Hayward, an interesting name. He got moved to the Thunder, pretty young team. They get a solid veteran when he's in. For Trey Mann, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name, so you can take that one. I think it's Vasily Michich. Michich. I don't know if you know that one. Davis
Nope.
Bertans, who is a buyout candidate, I believe, and 2 future second round picks. 76ers got some good shooting. They traded Buddy Hield to the Pacers for Marcus Morris. That was the one. That deal happened first, and then Morris got dealt again. And then, of course, bought out,
Yeah.
like I said. Furkan Korkmaz, who was waived by the Pacers, and 3 second round picks. And then a name that we thought maybe would come to the Celtics with some mathematics if they could make it work cap wise. The Canadian ends up going back to Canada. Kelly Olynyk, and I think it's Ochai Agbaji. Again, we already know that I can't pronounce names, so we're just going to stick with that. They both go to the Raptors in return for another guy we talked about with the Celtics, Otto Porter Jr., Kira Lewis Jr., and a 2024 first round pick. Ready for this one, Mike? Least favorable of OKC, the Clippers, Houston, if it ends up between picks 5 and 30, and Utah, if it ends up between picks 11 and 30. So do the pick math on that if you want to in your own time. But the Jazz are receiving a pretty convoluted first round pick for Olynyk and company. Any deals that stand
Yeah.
out to you other than the Grant Williams one that we talked about that kind of interest you at all, or just kind of like I was, where it's like, all right, trade deadline came and went. There really wasn't a whole lot of big splashes. Seeing Hayward get moved is interesting again. If he stays healthy, maybe a solid veteran. Who's had an up and down season for a pretty overall young Thunder team could work out maybe pretty well for them.
I guess I think one of the more interesting ones for me, outside of we talked about the Boyan one a little bit, that one was pretty big. The one we just talked about, like, why exactly are the Raptors giving up a first round pick when they're projected to miss the playoffs?
I don't know.
I don't. I was
Really
really
don't
confused.
know.
Like, what does Kelly Olynyk do? Maybe they really like Agbaji and really targeted him.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe just this was just their best way of getting rid of Otto Porter Jr. They wanted to, ship him out. I don't know, but that was an interesting one for me.
Perhaps. The other one, too,
Perhaps.
that I kind of briefly blew by was Buddy Hield going to the 76ers. Interesting that the Pacers would trade him because he's been a solid piece for
He's
them.
been playing less. I
Yeah,
heard
he's
from
been more
someone.
of a bench role for them. I don't know if he's starting with the 76ers, but kind of interesting that it looks like Philadelphia maybe will try to go with more of a shooter first mentality with Embiid hurt instead of, obviously just trying to feed him the ball, and take it into the paint, stuff like that. So Hill gives them obviously a nice outside shooting piece. Um, that was the only deal they made, right? They didn't really pick up anybody else. Yeah, so see what if it works out for the 76ers. Obviously, they got a pretty big hill to climb with no Embiid. But make a solid move here and there to see how that works out for them.
Yeah, I don't see the downside to that one for them, especially because like a guy like Korkmaz already got waived,
Yep.
so you essentially just kind of cast him off. Um, yeah, I
Right. They
don't
get
know,
Springer.
pretty lackluster trade deadline, but I mean, all I care about is the Celtics really when it comes to the trade deadline, and
Hmm.
I like the idea of where these guys could fit in the lineup and what they could do. So didn't need to break the bank, they didn't.
And
Good for me.
yeah,
Good for me. Good
absolutely.
for you.
Not that it's good for me. Not that it's in the outline. But just any brief thoughts because we really haven't talked in depth about Celtics games stuff like that like we've done with the Bruins before. Um, but I'm sure you've caught games here or there. Any thoughts on them moving forward as we head into the All Star break? Some things that you've maybe watched that you've liked so far that have stood out. Over the last couple of games or anything that you've seen or anything you're looking forward to coming out of the All Star break. And I think you kind of alluded to it with maybe getting some of these new guys in there and seeing how they play. But anything else that's kind of you want to maybe throw out there while we're on Celtics.
No, I like the way they've been playing lately. I'm becoming more and more of a guy in the camp. Like, if it's the fourth quarter or overtime, playoffs, regular season, I want Derek White taking the big shot.
It's kind of
Because
crazy to think, isn't it? With
I
Tatum,
mean, we
Brown,
saw a little bit
Porzingis
of
on the
reason
team,
for it
but
last year.
mhm,
Um, he's so good in the fourth quarter, and
he's
he's
basically
still an
automatic. Yeah.
underappreciated 3-point shooter. Look, they don't they don't play perfect basketball, but I think they're just like a really solid team.
Hmm.
Um, I don't watch it as with this fine toothed of a comb as some, but I feel like they don't make a ton of like crazy mistakes
Hmm.
lately. And overall, I think the way they've been playing is pretty good. They're body bagging the Nets right now to the point where Jordan Walsh is already in the game.
I was gonna say the same
He's a
thing. That
guy
was gonna be
I
the
want to
update.
see in the mix more because I like watching him play.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they're good. Like they don't, even their bench doesn't have like these super big names. They have guys that fit, and I think Tillman and Springer will fit in there as well.
Hmm.
You made some lateral moves there. I like where they're at. I don't really have any big concerns. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to complain about. You kind of alluded to it with Derek White. I mean, the step that he has taken this season to the point where he arguably should have been an all-star or could have very well made a case for being an all-star. That's been great to see. You know, a guy we obviously had high hopes for coming in, Drew Holiday. I think he has fit in great for this team. You know, he's been scoring the ball a lot more lately, which is nice to see. I think they said on the broadcast the other night he's like second or third in the NBA when it comes to corner threes. Didn't know he was that good of a three-point shooter. So to see that scoring threat as well kind of come through as the season has gone on has been great. Porzingis has been everything you could want and more. He's been
Yeah.
fantastic. The one thing that has stunk is the injuries have kind of crept in here and there. So again, that goes back to the trade deadline acquisitions, getting some relief for him. Maybe you see Gallinari, who's a bigger body. If they bring him in the buyout market, he's another guy that can, give Porzingis a night off towards the end of the season as well. They're going to do that. They're going to, alternate with him and Horford as the season goes on. Um, but that's the big thing. Everyone has kind of said it. If this team stays healthy, they should be able to run the table. Brown and Tatum goes without saying they've been excellent. Tatum has just firmly put himself in the MVP case as well. And you said it, they haven't made as many mistakes or head scratching mistakes that they've made in years past. They have their moments, third quarter, it gets a little lackadaisical. But I think this season in these games of late, last night against Brooklyn, I think it was Sunday against the Heat, where they have these moments of, okay, starting to crumble a little bit here. The ceiling might be starting to cave in. It seems like this year they have been able to kind of fight their way out of those instead of, okay, well, we just blew a 20-point lead. Let's just lie down and give the game away, as we've seen them do, last year at times, years prior more so. This year they've been good at that. I think, the maturity you're seeing come through. We talked about it obviously when the Marcus Smart trade happened. You like to see guys like Tatum and Brown step up into more leadership roles. I think they've both done that excellent. Tatum especially has taken on more of a facilitator role, which has been great. His all-around play has been fantastic this season. So that's basically, again, I know we just kind of ran through a lot of stuff there in a short amount of time, but there really isn't a whole lot to complain about with this team. Like you can nitpick stuff, like Scal the other night was doing it. They've been running a zone the last couple of games, which really hasn't worked out. So maybe that's something you stay away from. Don't play zone. Continue to play with fast pace flying defense like they've done in the past. Other than that, like again, they've dominated most of the league. They have their off nights here and there, so I'm not going to get too worried. But it seems like when they do have an off night, they tend to bounce back the next night, or if they have a couple nights off, tend to bounce back and play pretty well. So nothing to complain about with the Celtics. They've been great, and hope we can continue it moving forward into the All-Star break and beyond.
Hell yeah, man. We're off to a good start. We're doing that right now. So, even
Absolutely.
though Jason Tatum just missed a free throw,
That's the one. If you want, yeah, that's the one negative he can have is they suck at free throws this year for
Jaylen
some
Brown
reason.
sucks. Has I feel like always kind of sucked at free throws.
Not as bad as
But
this year though. He's
yeah,
horrible. It's
yeah.
kind of mind blowing. But yeah, that's I think
I
I
have the take that I might have mentioned on the show that I think every single NBA player in the world should shoot over 90% for the line.
you have said that to me before. I think you have said this on this show. It's not the craziest take because it's part of your job. It's your part of your profession. Like
Should be the easiest shot.
it really should be. You legit
But there's
sound like my
pressure,
dad
there's
right
other
now.
factors, from the fans, I get it,
Hmm.
nerves. But I rest my case.
Yep.
The Bruins are back in the swing. Not always perfect, but it started pretty good with a win over the Canucks on the 8th, 4-0 win after a truly bad game against the Flames. They flip the script. They get both sides of that Lindholm trade. You see Kuzmenko, then you see Lindholm, and they show up against Lindholm's new team. A statement win against the Canucks, who are a great team this year, looking to be more aggressive on the market as well. Allmark only had to make 17 saves, stopped them all. Bruins outshot them 24-17, ended a 12-game point streak for the Canucks. And, this is a shocker, but Marchand scored a shorthanded goal. He did it very early on, which is a good tone setter in this scenario. And Dan Heine made two shorties in the same game. Split the D on a pass, I believe, from Coyle, and outskated a back-checking Elias Pettersson, buried it. His 10th of the year. He's on pace for like 15 or so, maybe a little more, which is nice. No other way to put it. The Morgan Geeky goal was pretty goofy. I still don't really know how it happened, but that was fun. And Pavel Zacha made it 4 goals in the first 20-11 of the game. And that's all they needed because they didn't do any goal scoring after that, and neither did the Canucks. A nice, simple, fast-paced start and a good win. So you'll take that. Goals have been tough to come by for Pavel Zacha, but in his last 4, he got 2 goals and assists for 3 points in 4 games. So maybe he'll get the goal scoring started a little bit. He had some tough games in this last month or so stretch. He's a little invisible, but overall, I still think he's a plus add to this lineup, and I'm not super worried about it. Know what I was worried about, Ryan, and I was there. Had a lovely day with my family, a plan from Christmas. We had some Italian dinner in the North End. That was very good.
Very nice.
Italian lunch before. Went to watch the worst game of the season. Because
it balanced itself out. Great lunch, great time with the family. Yeah. Horrible hockey game.
Truly dreadful. The day before saw a great hockey game. BC UNH. BC won 6-1. I had a little family weekend. Plus my brother's girlfriend. So that was fun. This game was not. Swayman played really good. Stopped 26-28. They lose 3-0 though. Outshot 29-18 by a not so good Capitals team, even though Ovi scoring again 6 goals in the last 6 games.
I saw, yeah.
Starting to get going, getting back to that pace a little bit. Catching up, but he needs more than that, and he can. He is Ovi. Unfortunately, Ryan, my Garden streak is over. If you don't include the Bean Pot I was at the BCBU game. BC unfortunately lost. I'm not counting that. Bruins Celtics. I was on a 20-23 game run of them winning every time. It's now impressive. Over. Yep. It was. I mean, it's all me. In epic fashion, it ends. Also, shout out to Ware, friend of the program, friend of ours. He was at the game. Got to see him in person for the first time in a minute. Nice. So that was cool. Shout out to him. Swayman was really the only good player on the team, and I will give credit to Anthony Richard, who made his Bruins debut, his 16th NHL game, had 9 hits. I mean, if you're going to play fast and play a bottom 6 style, throw the weight around, and that's what he does. He's having a great year in the AHL, but now he's getting some bit of a reward here for his good play in the AHL. And he's 27. It's not like you're calling up this prospect that might not be ready. And Lauko had 6 hits, so they played hard. Rest of the team really didn't. Things weren't cohesive. Passes were struggling to connect. The flow was off. There was a lot that was off. And I was wondering after every intermission, I was like, is this going to be the one Montgomery goes off and they come out and score 2 or 3 goals? Wasn't the case. Just didn't work. I don't know what the hell happened. But they just sucked. They straight up sucked. They almost had a historically low shot output. Less than 15 would be their lowest since November 22nd, 2003. And since then, their lowest have been 16 against the Wild on November 25th, 2009. And March 12th, 2013 against the Penguins. All these low-scoring games are coming at home. Come on, guys. I know it's a few.
Not great,
in many, but let's not do this at home, maybe. Especially when I'm there. Show me some respect. Show my family some respect.
Absolutely.
Show the fans respect. Come on.
It's one thing if you go with your friends and that happens.
Your takeaways from this very awful game.
I was just gonna say it's one thing if you go there with buddies of yours and you're drinking, you can't remember the game, and then it's one thing. But you go there with your family, you bring your family there, and they put up that stinker. That's not cool. I missed this game, and according to everything I saw on Twitter, thank God I did, because I didn't really miss anything.
Swayman had some really nice saves, though. I will say
that's what I heard. So again, you're not gonna knock the goalie too much when he doesn't have anything to go off of. You can't really blame him when the team doesn't put up any goals for him. So kind of left out on an island by himself. The Vancouver one, though, we've seen it with this Bruins team before. They have a rough game here and there. They always tend to get up for these big performances, and they did in this game, in the Vancouver game, rather. So that was obviously good to see. But again, clunker against Washington, not the greatest thing on the planet, because as you said, Washington is not that great of a team. But kind of like it is like we just talked about with the Celtics. They're due for one stinker every once in a while that you're kind of like, all right, get that out of your system and move on.
Yeah, and I just had to check this because I thought it happened once before. That was the first time the Bruins have been shut out all year. I think they got shut out once or twice last year too. They don't get shut out very
Yeah, that's
often. I'm
yeah.
not including playoffs. They might have got shut out in the playoffs once. Um, just really bad. Like you're gonna have stinkers though. This one was just really uneventful.
Hmm.
Tampa game was a little more eventful last night. They lose 3-2 in a shootout though. Um, Omar makes 23 to 25, stops 23 to 25. They outshoot the Lightning 38 to 25, but it's not enough. Just not Omar's best. Couple soft goals. The Chernak one shouldn't squeak through like that. It did, barely got across the line. Um, I just like blanked out for a second.
Okay.
Kucherov, like good shot by Kucherov, but I think that was pretty savable by Omar. Got over the glove. McAvoy scores on a back scratcher through some levels of traffic. Good screen. Coyle, I think, was the Bruins contingent on that. And JVR scores on a rebound. Kind of robs Marchand of a goal on his big night, but had to get in somehow. JVR just put it in. Marchand had 2 assists in his big one. Couldn't get the win though. He is now in game 1,000, 912 points and a plus 300 rating. Pretty phenomenal. I was mentioning to a friend too, like I think it's worth noting how good defensively he's been for so long too, because he kind of gets put in the shadow in that regard.
Hmm.
With Bergeron, they work so well together. I still think he's a solid defensive player. Did DeBrusque tried his patented move again after straying away from that last shootout. Didn't work. Went over the net. Coyle misses, point scores, and Pasternak needs to switch it up because this lackadaisical move,
It looks
a
so
little
bad when he doesn't
wrister,
score.
little like hook wrister, kind of like lets it chill, like hang back and lets it go instead of like a snapshot.
Hmm.
Um, it's not working anymore. Time to switch it up. Also, time to switch the order up. I feel like every time, it's different when you don't have Bergeron and Krejci.
True.
Um,
Yep.
maybe put someone else in there. But I don't really know who they would.
I was just gonna ask
Maybe
you
Zaka,
who do you
Marchand,
feel
just
comfortable putting up
Marchand, I
there?
guess.
Yeah,
Maybe
I mean
Zaka.
that's a yeah. I'm kind of
Um,
surprised they don't have Marchand. I mean, Coyle's not
mhm,
terrible. DeBrusque's, has is pretty good in the shootout.
mhm.
But you think Marchand, I feel like definitely should be able to bump Coyle. Like I like Coyle and everything, but we got to move somebody. Like you're definitely not taking Pasternak out, obviously. Um,
No,
maybe go with the route
no
that
shit.
like I texted you last night that Tampa Bay went with, where you put your big lurking defenseman out there as your first shooter and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like maybe you get McAvoy out
Um,
there or Carlo or somebody like
McAvoy,
that.
that's what I was gonna say. McAvoy
Yeah.
scored a couple nice shootout goals over the years. Just saying. The big storyline in this one was Linus Olmark being fined 5K this morning for a high sticking Mikey Asimont, who he really didn't get a lot of contact on after Asimont like kind of went out of his way to hit him and got him with an elbow. Shattenkirk wasn't a fan. Olmark wasn't a fan. Kind of stupid. Like they totally botched the situation when it happened. Didn't put Asimont in the box.
Mhm.
And then Omar's the only one that gets fined. Like it's kind of weird, but it's fine at the end of the day. Who cares?
Yeah.
Um,
I think you just kind of
what?
you that's one of those ones that I think you throw the fine out there because watching the
Mhm.
video again, it's not great that you have a
Yeah, not a great
goalie
look.
swinging his stick. Yeah,
Mhm.
in the sense defenseless player in that situation. So that's one of those like, hey, we got to put this out there. We can't
Don't
have
do that.
goalies taking quote unquote cheap shots at our players and just move on.
Don't do that.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. I kind of wondered going into this game, Lauko's out. Would have been a good game, I guess, to have Lauko in. I don't know why you take him out against Tampa. They don't have Pat Maroon anymore, who was a pain in the ass in the past, but like still a tough team. Luke Glendening, they add him to the mix, a little bit of toughness in the bottom six. I don't know, it was a little weird. I think kind of Oscar Steen kind of has a shield around him a little bit too. Like I don't think you should hesitate taking Oscar Steen out every once in a while. He's a fine player, but like I don't know. I like what Lauka's been doing lately ever since he got that little confidence boost from the third line bump. I think he should be in the lineup pretty much every night. Um, but he's a fourth liner. That's subject to happen. With fourth liners, you rotate out and in sometimes. Um, Seattle tomorrow night. Oliver Bjorkstrand is their leading scorer, 53 games played, 40 points. They're sixth in the Pacific. Might sell off some pieces. The Bruins are actually linked to Alex Wenberg on the team. I put it on Twitter, not chomping at the bit for him, but I guess he'd be a fine like third line ad. if he's the cost the right price. But I'm not like jumping at the bit for that. Pasternak did not skate, so his status is in question after getting a little banged up, but he came back and said he's like, I'm fine, I came back. So maybe this was just precautionary. Don't really hate them keeping him out of practice, keep him ready for this Western Conference trip they got going on coming up. It's not like all on the road or anything, but actually a lot of it's at home. But I think most of it's at home now that I think of it. Yeah, Western Conference swing starts with Seattle. All Western Conference teams through the rest of the month. You got LA, who is one of the more interesting teams right now coming up. They're 24, 16, and 10. Adrian Kempe leads them in scoring with 44 points in 50 games. They're on a crazy downswing as of late for a while, actually. Fired Tom McClellan, appointed Jim Hiller as interim head coach. The first 2 games since doing so with Hiller, they beat the Oilers, who are the best team in the league right now, 4-0, and then lost to the Sabres 7-0 last night. Talk about the yin and the yang of hockey. Two quite different teams. Since December 28th, they're 4-9-6. In between December 28th and January 13th, they lost 8 straight. So really good team that's underachieving. I think the luster's kind of worn off in net. Cam Talbot had a hot start in his first year there. Hasn't been as good. Phoenix Copley got hurt for the whole season. They had a new backup in David Riddick. They obviously needed a coaching change too. Maybe they turn things around, much like Edmonton. I don't think they're going to reach Edmonton's level of dominance with the coaching change and getting Connor McDavid's old OHL coach, but maybe a coaching change will help the LA Kings. This is a team that should be in the playoffs, and they're slipping lately. Dallas, Jason Robertson is their leading scorer, 54 points in 53 games. They're in first in the Central. Very good team. Very good test for the Bruins. Very good goalie. Deep defensive core. A lot of depth at every position of that team. Got a guy I wanted on their team in Matt Duchene, playing very well, having a bounce back year. Should be a great test. And so will Edmonton. In Alberta, Connor McDavid, who had 6 assists last night. They're 31-17-1 now after a disastrous start to the season. Fired their coach. 63 points, third in the Pacific. They could honestly win the division at the rate they're going, but it'll be tough with a team like Vancouver up there. In particular, they won 16 straight from December 21st to January 27th, and so since November 24th, they're 26-5. They haven't lost a single overtime or shootout game in that span.
That's wild.
Yeah, Connor McDavid at this rate took him a little while, but if he keeps this up, he's going to be at the top of that Hart Trophy race in 2 weeks. Maybe sooner, but we'll see what Nathan McKinnon and Nikita Kucherov and David Pastrnak think about that. Because I think Pastrnak is definitely in that race. He's having a crazy season. But that's it. It's a big stretch. And it's like 4 games in like 7 days. You know, they're going to be playing pretty much every other night for a while. They got to be ready. And this is where, you know, you really get serious about scouting out some depth options at the deadline. Potentially a big swing for Noah Hannafin. Maybe that involves Linus Ullmark. Not counting on it, but I wonder if Calgary moves on from Jacob Markstrom. Do they have interest in Linus Ullmark in a deal? I wonder. Jacob Markstrom blocked a deal to New Jersey, apparently, so we'll see where he wants to go. Maybe he ends up in Carolina. That would sting New Jersey fans a lot. In a tough scenario, in some ways, he's played really good. You know, they still Uyghur and Tanev and Hannafin, but you know, Calgary's not as good as they've once been. So he's had a little bit of adversity, but that would be an interesting guy to watch. Speaking of goalies, UC Saros, I'm looking at New Jersey, I'm looking at Carolina. Seems more and more likely that he could be moved, more so than a couple months ago. But Barry Trotz is holding firm with the fact that he needs to be blown away to move a guy like Saros. Barry Trotz is very stern in his own ways. He's always been that way, and I don't mean that in a bad way. But with the way UC Saros and the Predators are playing, a little bit of a down year for Saros, I think you got to get rid of him. Like, sell high. If you sold last year, you could have got 2 first-round picks and a couple like really good players, I bet. That value isn't going to be a lot. But I get wanting to get blown away. You know, you're trading a goalie that's been really good for a while. But especially for them, they have Yaro Askarov, who they took in the first round a few years ago, starting to play very, very, very well in the AHL in the last like year or two. And he's kind of a psycho. He likes to bench press the net as a celebration. He's got a little bit of that Russian factor in him. So I think this is the year to do it. especially if you're not going to make the playoffs. Maybe he's just biding time. Maybe if the Predators, get going a little bit, they're like, okay, now we have an excuse to hold on to him. Maybe trade him in the offseason or before the draft and try and get into the playoffs. But I don't know. Right now, I'd be very surprised if UC Saros is a Predator by next fall. If not by the deadline, because I think they should sell on him. Morgan Riley, center, or maybe not the center, maybe Ridley Gregg was, of an incident past week with Ridley Gregg teed up an empty net slap shot, a one timer, and Morgan Riley took exception, hit him right in the head, caused a whole brouhaha. I love the dickheadishness of it from Ridley Gregg. I think it's a super unnecessary thing to do, but it's super funny and cocky, and he got whacked for it for good reason. I thought it was awesome. Like I like that in the game. The Leafs are going through a lot right now with that, and Ryan Reeves getting mean to death about like this wouldn't happen with Ryan Reeves in the lineup when he got laid out by 5'9" Nathan Walker last night. I don't know the Leafs. It's a real shame that things are going rough for them. It's not like anybody
You hate
predicted
to see
this a
it.
couple weeks ago. And so they need to change their coach, which they still do. The tough news this past week was the whole Patrick Laine thing. I don't know how close you followed this, but
I
some
briefly saw it last night, and I meant to text you like what the situation was, and I completely forgot. So you can fill me in now on what.
yeah. There was a podcast. I'm not going to mention the name because of these dumbass things this one guy did, and couple co-hosts, not Elaine Shercliffe, who's in the Full Press family. She did not laugh. She, even not fully knowing what the thing the guy said meant, she didn't laugh. So I want to put that out there because she's getting some unnecessary flack. She's also in Full Press. She's a great writer. So this guy said a term referring to suicide about Patrick Laine that's unfounded and just straight up disrespectful to somebody who's going through a lot right now and is taking time away from the game. You'll see the name of the term. I'll highlight it here if you can't see it. In the notes
Gotcha.
section here, just can't say that and you can't laugh about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to bite your tongue and not let your intrusive thoughts come through and say some dumb shit like that. The guy's getting dragged for it, deleted his Twitter. Patrick Laine called out the podcast multiple times publicly on Twitter. Just an awful situation and making light of someone going through a lot right now, some potentially serious mental issues that we don't know all the details of is really fucked up, especially for your hometown team. Saying it out of anger due to frustrations about the team is just not right, and it's not fair to Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Just really stupid. And Johnny Gaudreau stepping up. I think he said like he's had plans of this like since like before during the All-Star break. He's gonna pledge a point to the CBJ Foundation for every point he scores, and it's gonna go through like mental health research and stuff like that, initiative like that. So very cool to see
Absolutely.
teammates step up in a situation like this. And this guy's a moron. Just a really dumb, avoidable situation on this podcast. So I hope Patrick Laine, of course, figures it out too, whatever is going on in his life, figures it out and finds peace and, can get back to playing hockey because when he's on the top of his game, he's very fun to watch. And it's been a tough last few years. I understand why he might be dealing with some mental stuff, been traded, been struggling, moving up and down out of the lineup, healthy scratches. There's probably a lot going on in his head and a lot that we don't know outside of, what we can gather from, his absences from the lineup, healthy scratches and stuff like that. Anything he might have going on because of those things. So we're wishing him the best. But unless you have any other Bruins thoughts before we wrap it up, I think we're good to wrap it up.
Well, the only thing I had, because you mentioned a couple of things, obviously the trade deadline, a month away, less than a month away, whatever I don't know the specific date. But you mentioned during specifically the Bruins segment, the Steen stuff about like why he continues to be in the lineup, and I was going to ask maybe guy that's showing off potentially, try to maybe make a move or see what kind of value he
Perhaps.
might have, if any. That was kind of the only thing I thought of when you said
Yeah,
that. But
maybe. I guess, yeah. He'd
okay,
come like, it'd be like a situation where if the Bruins feel like they can, give him a better opportunity or someone really wants him, but I
that
don't
was
know,
kind
maybe
of
he could
my
also just be
my
like a
thought
sweetener
process.
type
Okay.
in a trade. But it actually reminds me too, like I'm not gonna get a huge Noah Hannafin tangent, but I just want to put it out there that Noah Hannafin in some way or another, needs to be a priority for this team, I think, because if you're gonna move on from Matt Grizzly, letting him walk or trade him, Charlie McAvoy's defensive partner long term is a very big priority, and that could be Mason Lowry someday. Maybe you sign someone cheaper, and you bring in Lowry and that cheaper player. Maybe you keep Waterspoon, but if you really if you're really faithful in Hanifin being that guy, it seems like one of the worst kept secrets that he's gonna end up here. We've talked about this. I don't think you can do better this offseason than Noah Hanifin. And he's going to cost around $8 million. It's a lot. You got Lindholm at 6.5. You got McAvoy at 9.5. Carlo at 4.1. I get that. But if you can make it work by like training a guy like Omar, Grizzly, whoever, and make it work, so you have enough space to add at the forward core if you want, I think you should do it.
I'm right
That's
there
my
with you.
spiel. And we'll see if they do. Because if they don't, I'm very confident that they're going to make a huge run at him in the summer. So just watch out for that, Bruins fans, because I think it's going to happen.
You heard it here first. If it does,
you heard it here first. Maybe not heard it here first, but you can just say you did.
You can lie and say you heard it here first.
Ryan said it. Ryan said it, so it's true.
Yes. Yeah.
That's going to wrap it up for episode 180, 20 away from the big 200 bomb of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. We should probably just start calling it Sal and Cratty more often, just to bridge a little bit. Don't you think? Maybe
so.
we'll do that. Maybe we'll do that. It'll be tough to get used to, but I kind of think about that sometimes.
It rolls off the tongue better.
Rolls
the
off
shorter,
the tongue,
yeah.
It's just, the de facto name we got here. But, I think a lot of people that listen get it at this point. Thank you so much for listening. New and old listeners, we appreciate you. You can rate and review on Spotify and Apple. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the Full Press Coverage Twitch and YouTube channels. You can also download the app free on the App Store. We're on Twitter at Mike_Cratty, at Ryan_Salvaggio, and the show at Sound and Cratty Pod. We're on TikTok as well if you'd like to follow us there. Probably have some more content from myself as we get closer to the deadline. So keep an eye out for that. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice people, find something different besides football to do on the weekends, and enjoy those, because you're going to have to get busy somewhere else besides watching football, because it's a big void in our lives now.
Baseball season starting up. Haha, just kidding.
Baseball season. We'll talk to you guys next week. Peace out.